What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 160 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today I'm going to be answering voicemails that I've got over time through SpeakPipe. And if you want to leave a voicemail to be played on this podcast, whether you have a comment, a question, or something that you want to raise in the industry, that's speakpipe.com/howtohardscape. The link for that will be in today's show notes. And this is what I'm going to be doing once a week going forward with this podcast. We'll still keep the Monday episode where I typically interview an industry leader, business owner, or some sort of hardscape topic. And then on Thursdays, I'm going to be dropping an additional episode where we just take audience questions, whether that be through Instagram if you're following us at How to Hardscape. So any general questions can be directed to me there, whether you want to shoot me a DM, or if you see one of our stories pop up asking for a question, or even clicking the SpeakPipe link to be able to leave us a voicemail. So that's the way that we're going to go with these Thursday episodes. Again, questions, comments, just discussing the industry or whatever you might want to bring up to be able to play on this podcast. I've put up a couple of links before in the past and I haven't addressed them, so I'll be playing a couple of those today and just putting in my effort to get back to people with this, because I have been pretty bad of putting up these questions on Instagram and not actually doing one of these episodes, which I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm sticking to a Thursday schedule with these episodes starting next week. So we'll get back to our industry leaders interviews every Monday, and then Thursday with these episodes. And we're gonna have a call to action at the end of this episode, what I want to hear from you on SpeakPipe or through a DM on Instagram, or just answering one of our answer bars in our stories. But that will be at the end of every episode, what I want to hear from you, or it can just be general comments, questions, like I said, anything that you want to talk about with the industry, something that's frustrating you that you want played on the podcast and commented on. That is always welcome, but we'll also keep a call to action with this. And just to give you a heads up with this one, it is going to be, what is one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very start? If you want to submit a SpeakPipe, speakpipe.com/howtohardscape. What is one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning? This is a question that I end every single one of my interviews with, and we've had a lot of great answers. So if you want to submit that, put that into the voicemail. Once again, speakpipe.com/howtohardscape. And once again, I want to thank our sponsors, Cycle CPA. They're at cycle_CPA on Instagram, or cyclecpa.com. If you need bookkeeping, accounting, or CFO services, they're there to help you. Mention the How to Hardscape podcast and get $200 off, as well as InLight Outdoor Lighting. They have incredible quality outdoor lighting available to this industry. I use it personally in my business, and they have been generous enough to sponsor the How to Hardscape podcast. So check them out at InLight Design on Instagram. That's INLITE, to at least get some inspiration from their posts, their beautiful projects that they put up there with their products, and reach out to them to get the conversation started if you're looking for new products to install, especially with the value that lighting adds to our projects. And it definitely helps our bottom line. Once again, InLight Design on Instagram, INLITE Design. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So just a heads up with this, I have posted a few stories in the past, I think starting from somewhere around January. With these, I've got a few of them to play, and then I've got also multiple questions in the bank that I'll be addressing slowly through these Thursday episodes. If you have an urgent question that you ever want me to answer or comment or whatever it might be, shoot me a DM and I'll answer those right away. These question box answers that come in through Instagram stories, or I post a link up there for SpeakPipe for you to leave a voicemail. This has taken me a long time to get to, and you won't get an answer right away with them, and they will be played on the podcast at some point in time. Again, with these Thursday episodes, we're going to be really focusing on this schedule and making sure that I do get to them. But these have come in a long time ago, so bear with me with some of these. And if you did leave a voicemail and I haven't gotten to it, I do appreciate your patience. And to those that did leave a voicemail, thank you so much for that engagement, for that interaction. I do want to really ramp up this segment of the podcast, so I do want your engagement. Anything really that you want to say, speakpipe.com/howtohardscape. It's in the show notes. You can just click on it, go through your phone and record it. It doesn't have to be great audio or anything. I'm sure we can hear you straight from your phone. And once again, questions, comments, things that are frustrating you in the industry, whatever that might be that you want to be played on this podcast. And at the end of every Thursday episode, we'll have a call to action with what we want to also hear for the next episode. Let's play our first voicemail here.
Hey, Mike and everybody listening. It's Jeff Cunningham from Team Ontario, Alliance Gator. I thought I would give this a whirl and drop a topic. Polysand. I feel like Polysand, it's one of those things that you want it to work every single time, and sometimes it just doesn't. And it's not always just the sand. Sometimes it's external factors out of our control, out of your control as the installer. But luckily, 95% of the time, Polysand works as long as it's being put in properly and getting around the better side of Mother Nature and what she's going to throw at you. But, the 5-10% that doesn't work out, it sucks. And there's emotions involved in this. And it's kind of like Polysand, I don't know, it's kind of like the elephant in the room in the industry. No one wants to talk about the bad times, and no one talks about the good times either. It's just expected to go right every time, and sometimes it doesn't. So I wanted to jump on here and say we get it. We walked in your boots. We're all previous hardscape contractors. We all owned our own companies. And when it doesn't work out, we're here to support you. Give us a call. Find us on Instagram. Find us at your dealers. Get in touch with our Alliance rep. And we're going to find out what will happen with that job, and we're going to fix it up with you, with your help. We will never do it on our own. We will help you fix it and put it to rest and take the pressure off your backs.
Jeff, thank you so much for being the first one to actually submit a voicemail. This was submitted a long time ago. So, Jeff, thank you for your patience to be able to actually, if you are listening, hear it on the podcast here, and for discussing Polysand. Just a little bit of background with Alliance. They have been sponsors on the podcast in the past. They were generous enough to do that. They also give back to the industry. They have seminars during the wintertime with an amazing online setup, and they do amazing demonstrations of each of their products. So I personally love to support manufacturers, companies that really give back to the industry. And Alliance has really stepped up in a big way to be able to do that, especially during those lockdowns that we've experienced, for them to hop on the online space and make sure that we as contractors are getting that education is a big thing. But even before that, going back to my supplier days, when I knew that I was stepping out and going to start my own business, I had already known the products that I was going to install. I'd had lots of experience with contractors and discussing the products and what works, what doesn't work, what may go wrong, but also the sales reps behind those manufacturers, those products that they're selling, was a big thing for me. And Alliance, I won't mention his name here, but Alliance had a sales rep that was always so amazing to me, and I was just a guy behind the desk in the sales office. I'd been there for 7 years or something like that, so I'd been there for a long time. But it speaks volumes, just like the people behind the product is what I'm trying to say. Like, the product has to be good, but the people behind the product is such an important thing to me as well. And you would think that, as a sales rep, you'd get the same sort of respect no matter who was behind the counter or whatnot, but it's not true. I've the number of sales reps that came in that, wouldn't even give me the light of day, just made me never want to touch those manufacturers, never want to be an installer of those products, even though they may be good products. Luckily, the manufacturers that did have really high quality products seemed to have really good sales representatives. So that kind of went hand in hand, and that worked out really well. So that's my background with Alliance. Since I have gone out on my own, I have installed Alliance products, and that is quite specifically their polymeric sand, as well as Gator Base. Gator Base has been a huge product for me in my business because I've spoken this on the podcast in the past, my experience in the industry, and then going out on my own and wanting to have low overhead, getting into lift and relays, but taking on the odd design build project that really fit my business. And that was where Gator Base fit in, because whether it was for lift and relays or whether it was for doing a backyard patio, that was a huge labor savings in starting my business and getting off on the right foot and getting capital into my business before I could start to expand. So Gator Base itself has been a major product for me personally, as well as other Alliance products as well, of course. Polysand, getting to what Jeff said there, the guys at Alliance Ontario are incredible. That's Jeff, Ryan, John, and Alliance, I know, stands behind their products. So if there's something that goes wrong and you contact one of them, I know that they're going to handle it. They're going to take care of it the best way that they possibly can. Of course, emotions can be high when, you think you've installed it properly and you followed all the steps and it still fails, especially if it might be a big project, because taking out polymeric sand just to put it back in is not ever a fun thing to go through. I've had to do it once. I've had one project that failed, but I can confidently say that was on me. That was my fault. That was in my first year, and I can't quite remember. I think like a thunderstorm came through that night and it just didn't set properly, or I believe that was the case, but I'd have to go back and see kind of what happened there. But that's my experience with Alliance Polysand. I'd say I use it on 90% of my projects. So I know that what Jeff's speaking about here is, like he said, the elephant in the room. And I think the big thing behind this is, they stand behind their products, and contact them if anything was to happen, and they'll do their best to make it right as much as possible. It's a difficult subject to get into. I know people that have had polymeric sand fail from many different manufacturers, and this could be something that you could submit to SpeakPipe, your own experience with. You don't necessarily have to mention the manufacturer. I'll leave that up to you, but your experience, whether good or bad, and how that manufacturer may have followed up with that, could be a good conversation starter at speakpipe.com/howtohardscape there. And also, Alliance has Nitro. It's definitely worth checking out. An incredible product that we are getting into more and more often here. It is a semi-permeable product. It's a wet install, so simply pour it out, spray it with water, make sure the surface of the pavement is sprayed with water, and then squeegee it around. I do notice that it does take longer to install than polymeric sand, especially if the joints are smaller and smaller, thinner and thinner. Definitely takes more and more time than polymeric sand to install, and it also costs more than polymeric sand. So it's not like something you would decide to install it if it starts to rain, as opposed to polymeric sand. It definitely depends on the application, and it also needs to be quoted into the project because it is, once again, more expensive to purchase and more expensive to install with labor. Yeah, great voicemail, Jeff. Thank you so much for leaving that and opening that conversation with us here on the podcast. I believe, just off the top of my head, Alliance Gator Ontario's Instagram is at Alliance Gator Ontario. So you can reach out to Jeff, Ryan, John there, and they've been really good at getting back to me as soon as possible when I message them, and I'm grateful for that. So that's that one. Let's get into the next one. I just want to take a break from today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Cycle CPA. You may have a CRM or project management software in place, but what data are you using to ensure your estimating is accurate? Having a proper accounting setup and accurate bookkeeping done is key to understanding overhead expenses and other costs that must be recouped in your estimates. Cycle CPA is a remote bookkeeping and CFO firm that helps to connect the dots from the financial reports to the hardscape and landscape data needed in order to reach high profits. They provide landscape and hardscape industry benchmarking, job costing, financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA's team of accountants are specialized within the hardscape and landscape industry, and you can visit them at cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. We also want to say thank you to Inlight for sponsoring today's episode. Did you know that one of the easiest ways to grow your hardscape business and increase your revenue is by incorporating low voltage outdoor lighting to your projects? Using lighting can take your projects to the next level, make you more profit, and add that wow factor and make your business stand out. As a professional hardscaper, we know you need reliable and high quality products to avoid callbacks and wasted time on job sites. That's why Inlight offers some of the highest quality lights and is the quickest system to install on the market. Their patented Easy Lock connector ensures that lighting will be the easiest thing you install every time. No heavy lifting, no massive machinery, just plug and play. Not only that, but Inlight also provides many educational resources like online and in-person training, installation videos, unbeatable customer support, and more. Everything you need to successfully take your business to the next level with outdoor lighting and beyond. It's one of the many reasons why I stand behind Inlight and many other companies that provide these educational resources to their clients, to contractors, and to help us grow our businesses. So for more information on how Inlight can help grow your business, check them out on Instagram at Inlight Design. That's at INLITE Design on Instagram. DM them to find out how to put more money in your pocket this season.
Hello, I have a question about what you would suggest, or how long would a reasonable time be to do a retaining wall that is 2 foot tall and it's 60 feet long. I was just wanting to find out what you would consider a reasonable time frame on that. Because of COVID, I've had multiple crews, so it's like training a new puppy constantly, and just trying to get some sort of, information that's useful somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this voicemail. This is an unknown person. You can always leave your name and company or Instagram handle, whatever you want to include in there. But this seems like one I should have got back to earlier. Once again, if you have a question for me that you want answered immediately, just shoot me an Instagram DM. That's where I'm most active. Or, that's the best way to get a hold of me. If you want an immediate answer, I'm sorry it has taken me so long to actually do this episode and sit down and go through these voicemails. But like I said, this is going to be much more consistent. Every Thursday, we're going to be doing these episodes. And if you have a voicemail, speakpipe.com/howtohardscape. And that link is in the show notes. But going off this 2 feet tall retaining wall, 60 foot long, is asking how long it would take you to do this. Now, first off, I'm a big fan of this specific question and not how much would you charge for a project like this. Evidently, you've got crews, you've been in the industry for probably a while now, so you do have some sort of grasp on this, perhaps, or you're just getting into the hardscape industry with a landscape crew or whatnot. But that is a great question. How long will this take, do you think? There's many more variables that play into that, but it's a better question than how much should I charge for this? Because if you ask how much should I charge for this, the millions of variables, I don't know millions, but the many variables that play into how much should I charge for this is just, it's not a great question, because there's not a great answer. It depends on the market itself. It depends on your company, your overhead expenses, your goals that you've set in your budget. So many different factors, whether you're going market-based or cost-based for your quotes. So that asking how much would you charge for this has many different more variables that play into it. Obviously, if you're asking how long do you think it would take for this, again, many variables that go into it, but still a better question. For example, how many people per crew? What equipment do you have? What does the job site look like? This is where production rates play a huge factor for me personally in my own business, in keeping good notes on how long things take me in my business to complete in the field, every step of the process, and the people that I have there and the equipment that we're using, access to the job, whatever it might be. We keep detailed notes on our production rates to be able to take that back to the office and have an average that we can work on. So, for example, we can have an average based on the face foot of a retaining wall that we install, based on how many people we have in that crew, say 2 people, an excavator and wheelbarrows, good, medium, poor access to the job site. And that, for me personally, will depend on the access into a gate into the backyard, if that may be the case, but also taking into factor front yard, side yard, backyard to give me that job access for that. And then excavation, base preparation, and then building the retaining wall, including backfill and whatnot. So those are all separate production rates that allow me to create an average based on how long it takes me. Of course, as your business grows and as you max out efficiency for a crew, so for example, you're not using a piece of equipment and you've got a crew of 2 people, and then you purchase a piece of equipment or you go to renting a piece of equipment, obviously that's going to add some efficiency to that. And the overhead expenses will go up. Once again, so many different variables that we can get into in talking about this. So you did mention that with everything that we've been experiencing with labor, you are consistently seems to be turning over employees and not having enough and having to constantly train employees. So this is a major factor when it comes to pricing. We do have so we have a budget and estimate spreadsheet on howtohardscape.com that we do sell that takes into factor all these different things. From the drive to the job site, the lunches, the breaks, and the drive back from a job site, if your employees are still getting paid for that. We have what's called an efficiency factor for that. But also, we have a percentage, almost you could call it a markup, on our labor based on our lost labor in training, depending on our turnover rate. So that could be something that you take into factor with future quotes to recoup those costs that go into having, say, a foreman train a new laborer, and how often that's happening and how much you're actually losing in productivity on that job to be able to mark up your labor a little bit more to recoup those costs. That could be something that you think about, and in doing so, you keep your production rates where they are so that you're not having to adjust to those production rates, or maybe you still need to evaluate adjusting those production rates based on the crew that you're consistently having, if that's a consistent problem moving forward. I know Paver King has a saying about this, and I'll probably butcher it, but I'm sure it came up in our interview earlier if you want to take a look at that one with Paver King. And I think it goes something like you need to charge based on the people that you have. So if you're consistently having turnover or you're consistently having to train, that's the way you should be charged. Those are the people that you should be charging for in that. So not a great answer in terms of how long this would take. I would have to look at my numbers and think about many different variables that go into this. Where is the project located? What equipment can you get into this? Is it front yard, side yard, backyard? What are the soil conditions like? So many different variables that would play a factor into this. Are you cutting or filling? That's just a few that come off the top of my head. And this all is taken into factor in my personal production rates for something like this. So once again, I'm sorry it took me so long to actually get back to you with this. I hope this provides something, even though I couldn't give you a great answer for this. But it does open a lot of different subjects that we can get into in future episodes for this podcast as well. And now on to our next one. And just to preface this, I have listened to this one. Greg, Valley Outdoor Design, thank you so much. We've had Greg and his father on a previous episode on I Am a Hardscaper series with Valley Outdoor Design. They do awesome, incredible work. They are definitely worth a follow on Instagram, Valley Outdoor Design, as well as they've got a YouTube channel. I hope that they are still consistently posting, because Greg's got some great videos up there, so definitely check them out on YouTube as well. And to preface this, I posted a story on Instagram, and I'm gonna have to go back and check because I put an answer to this question, and lots of people texted me an answer to this question. But also I put the speakpipe.com/howtohardscape link up, and Greg was nice enough to submit a voicemail answer for this question. And this is the question that I want to ask you for our next episode, and I'll be playing these SpeakPipe questions, or just DM me on How to Hardscape. But this is the question for the next episode. What is one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning? This is a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show for our I Am a Hardscaper series. So our business owners that come on the show, I ask this at the very end. What is one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning? And here is Greg's answer.
What's up? This is Greg with Valley Outdoor Design, and I wish that I had known right from the rip how to say no to the right projects. Not only will that save you time and heartache with those issue clients, but it'll also help get word around for the type of work that you are willing to do, and that pushes your brand into its own niche in the market.
This is so huge. Greg, thank you so much for the voicemail. This is such a great point. Being able to say no to the projects that you don't want to do or don't want to do anymore is so crucial, and you'll get known for the work that you do. So this does really play off of my story in starting as a lift and relay business, getting burnt out, not wanting to do that anymore, getting into design build, and I did struggle with saying no and not taking on certain projects. I do have stories of projects that I took on that I should not have taken on and went against my better judgment, and it's because I could not say no. This comes down to lift and relay work, repair work, maintenance work, things that I just should not have taken on, and things that I got known for in my sort of network, and I would get more and more of those when I was trying to get more into design build, and continuing this transition still to this day, more so because this is the transition that I want to make at the timing that I want to make, mostly because of product shortages. It's good to have a little bit of lift and relay work in my schedule. So if I'm not able to get products for an upcoming job, or am on a current job that I need products for, or there's been a change order and we're waiting for products, lift and relays are just great for now to have in my schedule to fill those little holes as they come up. So I've held on to that part of the business for a little bit, and for the foreseeable future until things start to change in terms of product shortages, supply chain issues, whatever you might want to call it there. But that is such a good point, Greg. And I know that you guys over there are doing incredible, beautiful work, and I'm sure you're getting more and more of that work coming to you. As soon as I did my first medium-sized design build project, I started getting referrals from that client, and that snowballed from there. So, and even within the lift and relay space, I've completely transitioned out of doing like really small lift and relays. If we're not doing the entire project, we're not going to do it. So even within that, I say no so much more often now these days. And it's helped my bottom line. It's helped my sanity. It's helped my business. So that is a crucial topic to discuss absolutely there. And in addition to that, If you do work that you don't necessarily want to do or don't necessarily want to do a lot of, you don't need to promote that work. You don't need to put it on social media. You don't need to put it somewhere for people to see, for people to think that you take on that type of work. So that's what I do with my lifting relays. I don't promote that I do lift and relays. If they come up and it's the right project, I will take it on. And once again, because it fills a hole in my schedule, but I don't post it anywhere. I don't talk about it. I don't tell clients that we do it. And that's how I go about that. And that has actually come up on the podcast that, it's okay to take on certain projects if it's the right fit. But if it's not a project that you want to be known for, that you want to build your brand around, you don't have to promote that. You don't have to talk about it, and you don't have to become known for that. So great point there, Greg. Thank you so much for leaving that voicemail. Once again, if you want to leave a voicemail, go to speakpipe.com/howtohardscape. The link is in the show notes. As a call to action, I want you to leave a voicemail. What is one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very start? We'll play it here on the podcast. I'll talk about it afterwards. And leave your name, your business, anything that you want to have people to go to as well in that. Or shoot me an Instagram message at howtohardscape with your answer. And it doesn't have to be based on that as an ongoing thing. If you have something that comes up that you want addressed on the podcast, whether that's a question, concern, frustration about the industry or anything within the industry or personal related, anything that you want to get into or you want me to answer, speakpipe.com/howtohardscape. Put it there or DM me on Instagram at howtohardscape. Once again, we really appreciate our sponsors, Inlight Outdoor Lighting. That's Inlight Design on Instagram. Get a conversation started there with their products. They have incredible outdoor lighting products, or at least follow them to be able to get inspiration on the projects that they are posting, the lighting possibilities that they have on their Instagram page. It's a great Instagram page to be following, as well as you should be following cycle_CPA on Instagram. Thank you, Cycle CPA, for being a sponsor on this podcast. And if you need bookkeeping, CFO services, accounting, you should definitely go to cyclecpa.com, get that conversation started, and mention How to Hardscape to get $200 off your services there. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.